Hello and welcome. Today we've got Jeff Bryan, the CEO of CloutHub, and we are going to be discussing the vision of CloutHub in the future. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Jeff can use our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Jeff Bryan, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
First of all, it's Brain, Jeff Brain.
Jeff Bryan, my apologies.
No problem at all. You're not the first one or the last one that will do that, so it's all good. So I've been really good. You know, we've been very busy at CloutHub, and it's exciting times, important times, and we're glad to be able to be in the mix of what's happening right now. And you know, just like you talked about the censorship that's happening on the other platforms, and exactly why I created CloutHub and why we're very excited to be, you know, where we're at this time.
Absolutely. Now, let's go back. When did you actually, sit down and think, I'm going to create a platform? And what was going on at the time with censorship and the crisis that we're in today, where you thought, I need to really think about making a platform? If you could just tell us your state of mind when this happened and what was going on politically.
Well, actually, my first thought of creating a platform was 2016, with everything that was happening in the election at that time. You know, there was starting to be the censorship. We started to see the shadow banning, and they denied it at the time. You know, they said it didn't exist. We're imagining it, and now, of course, you know, we see it everywhere. So it was 2016. That I started to think about it. It was 2018 that I actually took the steps to create the platform. And in 2018, even, you know, I had no idea that, you know, by how important what I was doing at CloutHub would be by 2021, where businesses are closed down, you know, schools are closed down, churches are closed down, you know, and we're being mandated to take a vaccine. You know, every reason I created CloutHub, which is to empower people, give people the ability to work together, organize, mobilize, and influence the issues that affect their lives, their communities, you know, their freedoms, their health, and their country. We're seeing in real life now in 2021. So,
absolutely. Now we have other platforms like Rumble, for an example, which is like YouTube. And, we assume and suspect that these were created for free censorship. Now, why do you think that Stu Peters is having some of his videos being banned and removed on Rumble?
Well, you know, not every platform is in a position to be able to control their own destiny. I was very lucky that I didn't feel it at the time, but in November, after the election, on November 6th, IBM hosted all our videos, and they took us down because some of our members or our shows were talking about what happened on November 3rd. And so IBM took all our video channels down without even any warning, notice, or otherwise. And that was an eye-opener for me of where we were headed as a society and as you know, a technology. So I immediately told my team, start working to make sure that CloutHub was completely protected and independent. Later, we saw what happened to Parler, right? I'm very pleased to say that CloutHub controls our own destiny. I'm not on a platform that I have to worry about what either one of us says. We're protected. We also are protected in the app stores, quite frankly. We went back and rewrote our apps completely so that, God forbid, one of the app stores decided to take us out, our apps would still work. In fact, we update the apps directly. We don't necessarily go through the app store. And unfortunately, that's what you have to do these days. And, you'd have to look and see where Rumble's videos are hosted, and they might be getting pressure, and they have to make a decision. Do I stay in business, or do I make this choice to have Stu Peters' videos taken down? Now, one of the advantages of CloutHub is that it's an all-in-one platform, meaning that when you join CloutHub, you not only have a discussion timeline like Twitter, but you have a video channel like YouTube or Rumble. We also, of course, have groups. We have meetings, which is like Clubhouse on CloutHub. So you can hold events, virtual events. We also have a newsroom, and we have a lot more coming. But with Rumble, it's a destination. It's like going to a shopping center, versus being in a mall. When you have your videos on CloutHub, it's in the middle of a city. And so we find that actually our videos, even though Rumble is very popular and well known, but our channels actually get on average about twice as many views as a Rumble channel. So that's because it's part of an infrastructure. When you go live on CloutHub or you upload a video, everyone that's subscribed to you gets a notification that you went live or you upload a video, which is normal, right? YouTube does that, Rumble does that. But your video actually goes into their public feed in the timeline. So when they come in, log in, they'll see your video. And that's what gets us so many views. It's also very shareable in our platform. So, that's a difference between us. And that's an important difference for us. We're so used to the first generation social media platforms where we use YouTube for our videos, we use Facebook for our groups, and we use Twitter to do comment on public affairs. CloutHub puts all that into one, plus a lot more.
Right. So let's talk about the numbers. How many users do you have now on CloutHub?
Yeah, we have nearly 4 million on CloutHub, and we're very proud of that. We actually haven't ever advertised CloutHub. I come on programs like this and talk about it. I've been on news programs and talk about it, but we've never run an ad to bring people to CloutHub. And to have that many people is very good. Now we are actually going to be starting a major promotion campaign. And, from my perspective, I wanted to make sure the platform was right first before I start to really promote it. And I think we're there, and we have good features. People understand what we're about. And so now we'll start to really promote it. And we expect actually to bring another 7 million people in the next 4 months. We have a very, I work with some very, very sharp online marketers, the best in the industry. That's my background, online marketing. And so I'm in that community. They like CloutHub a lot. They're looking for new territory to market to. And they also are concerned about what's happening in this country, as well as what's happening on the other platforms with censorship. They view CloutHub as a solution for them. And so they're willing to help me grow CloutHub.
Wonderful. So I know that you've met and you have been photographed with President Trump. Have you tried to get him on the platform?
Well, the president is welcome on CloutHub, and we did discuss CloutHub. He, of course, has chosen to go and build his own, which is Truth Social. From everything we know, and we have people very close to them, it'll be a Twitter alternative. That's what he liked. That's what he's used to. He did like CloutHub very much. He has certain needs that he, wants, which are financial. And so we weren't able to find common ground. But I believe at some point he will be on CloutHub anyway, because we're a powerful platform. And quite frankly, we have an important election in 2022. The thing that CloutHub has is, we have groups where we have subgroups, and we allow people, the admins in the groups, to message their actual members. In Facebook, you can only post and hope your members see your post. But in CloutHub, you could have a national group, okay, or organization. Then you can have a subgroup by every state. And then within every state, you can have a subgroup by perhaps county or school district or school or precinct. So it's tremendously powerful when you want to organize and mobilize people. The other thing too is, as the admin, you can actually message your members. You can message all your members, or you can say, hey, there's a hearing in Dade County that I want people to go to, and just message the people in Dade County that, what they need to do to go to a hearing. So it's very powerful that way. Also, we have, you've heard of Clubhouse, perhaps. Clubhouse is an audible social media platform. We have that technology in CloutHub, but we took it a step further. We put the presenters on video, like you and I are on video now. And then we can get people into 100,000 people into the meeting, and they can raise their hand and then talk to you and me, and we can answer their questions. We also allow them to text chat, live chat between themselves during the event. We also allow for handouts. We also allow for breakout rooms. And if you have a group on CloutHub, and many people do, and they're very large groups, when you set up your event or meeting, you can actually invite your group. And everyone in your group, gets an invitation, a link to go to that meeting or event, and they do come, they show up. And so that plus the channels, so for the president, he was to have a beta out in November. That didn't happen. Technology is not easy to build, and it doesn't always work the way you think it's going to go. We do have an important election in November of 2022. And my point to him and to his team is, I don't know when his platform will be ready, but he could step on CloutHub today and mobilize his base and for 2022, as could any politician who's running for office. They can set up their group with precincts. They can have a precinct captain. They can communicate to them, and they can mobilize them. And that's what we need right now. We all are focused on free speech, the importance of free speech, and it absolutely is. And I applaud every platform that's free speech.
Absolutely.
But what are we using free speech for? On so many of these platforms, we've seen Getter's come on very strong, but really all you do there is you post and then see how many likes you get. And with the challenges we have as a society and as a country today, where our freedoms are at stake, in my mind, that's not enough. What we need to be able to do is go a step further, and that's what CloutHub's about. CloutHub's about doing. We give you the groups to organize. We give you the CloutHub meetings to hold events. We give you the ability we have a news aggregator. You can even choose what news you prefer. It automatically comes to you. You might choose just the news, Epic Times, One America News, and those will come to you. And then we have the public timeline. Now, where we're going in the future, at the start of the year, let me say right now, what we're adding right now is business pages and the ability for people to advertise on CloutHub, and then a marketplace where people can sell on CloutHub. And that'll be done in the next 30 days. So businesses can start to come to CloutHub and promote themselves. And it'll be much better than Facebook business pages, which I've always felt were really just like a billboard. What we'll have actually allows you to collect names and email, just like a lead generator for online businesses, and take that information and use it to interact with your people that are following you on your business page. And again, when you post something on your business page, it not only goes to the people who followed you, but it goes in their timeline, so they're going to see it. Very important. Starting next year, we'll be adding a Civic Hub. A Civic Hub that allows you to interact with your legislators and decision makers at the federal, state, and local level. You'd actually be able to get election information, who's running for office. You'd be able to do petitions, polling, access resources. We're also adding a Faith Hub where you can share your faith, grow in your faith, all faiths, where you can see inspirational movies, books, music, watch different kinds of services. You might watch one pastor one weekend and decide next weekend you want to watch a different one, right? But you'll be able to see them all. We're going to connect churches, synagogues, mosques all across America and eventually the world. And so the people who have faith, can celebrate that faith. On Facebook and other platforms, they're being censored. I have a guy that has a channel on CloutHub who's taken off a D Live because he shared the Gospel of John. That's just unbelievable to me. So we're going to have a Civic Hub, Faith Hub, there'll be an Education Hub, Entertainment Hub, Sports Hub, Health Hub, Finance Hub, Business Hub, and a Marketplace. And really what I'm doing in CloutHub as we continue, I'm building social media that actually serves your life. Those are all elements of life that shape the quality of your life. They determine, the extent of your life, right? They enrich your life and build up society. And I think that's what social media should do. I think that what Mark Zuckerberg created and Jack Dorsey created, we're all fascinated with because they were the first. But it's certainly not serving your life in a meaningful way. And it's certainly not building up society. In fact, we could argue that it's destroying the fabric of society. And it's hurting individual health for people. There's been plenty of documentation of that. So CloutHub is actually, is not a Twitter alternative like so many of them are, right? That's a Getter, that's Parler, that's what others are. So CloutHub is a bigger solution. I also like to say that I started building this before the censorship got so bad. So many of the other platforms have come along as a reaction to getting censored, so it's a reaction. Mine's not. Mine's a well thought out, comprehensive plan to build, and change the direction of social media. And I believe that the reason the platform is growing like it is because people want that. They want to be able to access their faith, go watch services, go see a movie. They want to be able to interact with their community around a civic issue. It might be what's happening in their children's school. We saw that in Virginia, right? Parents organizing. They'll be able to do that in CloutHub. We give them the tools that they need to do that for when they need that issue, right? But they might just want to enjoy sports. What's the scores? What's the things, and watch sports. So again, changing the direction of CloutHub, of social media to be a true solution, a comprehensive solution. The opposite of what Facebook is, so to speak, in social media, but at that scale of social media.
It's amazing. I am on CloutHub. I love it. I see it like a Facebook and I see it like a YouTube at the same time. But of course, there are so many features on there that I have still yet to use and learn. And I'm still getting my head around it all, but it's amazing. I think it's a great idea. I've never seen anything like it, Now, when we're speaking of censorship, where do you see Section 230, standing in the future? Because we know it's a power that big tech has abused massively, and they're using even truths and the opinions of the masses and censoring them and saying that according to Section 230, they're being dangerous or harmful or misinformation. So what are your views about where Section 230 will be taking us in the future?
Yeah, well, you raise a very important issue. So for your audience, 230 is a law that was developed in the 1990s when people were just starting to use the internet, and there were bulletin boards. And let's say you had a bulletin board and people were speaking on your bulletin board. You were not, Section 230 said you're not responsible for what they say because you're not controlling what they say, right? That's the principle about 230. As compared to a publisher. If I had a magazine and I put out a new edition every week and I decide what goes in that magazine and we do an article on you and we're wrong on facts, you can sue us for libel or slander, right? But because on the bulletin board, I'm not controlling what people say, I'm not responsible if they said something wrong about you. I'm just providing the infrastructure. That was the principle behind 230. And so now, of course, we have these massive social media platforms. And what 230 says is I'm not liable for what people say. I'm protected from liability. Well, that would mean that it should say that Twitter, you don't have to worry about when somebody calls Fauci a name because you're not responsible for it, right? and you don't have to be taking people down. Of course, it's used as an excuse. And in fact, I think 230, they are acting as publishers because they are selectively deciding who stays and who goes and what topics are talked about and what topics are not. We saw, doctors talking about treatment, for that virus in front of the Supreme Court building, and all their videos were taken down. And if you, as an individual, put their video up, you got taken down. Well, that's acting like a publisher, right? Oh, well, it's misinformation. Well, what we find, and there's a joke going around, what's the difference between truth and misinformation? It's about 9 months, because what was categorized as misinformation last year, we're finding out, hey, maybe it did come from a lab. Maybe those doctors were right. You see Joe Rogan talking about how he got better. Maybe those doctors were right. And, what would have happened in the 70s when we were complaining about lung cancer and the link to cigarettes? Would big tech have taken down those discussions, and silenced people for complaining about, cancer? What would have happened in the 60s when Martin Luther King decided he's going to do a bus boycott? Would they have taken Martin Luther King Jr. down? I mean, we certainly saw Facebook taking down groups that were talking against the lockdowns. They just wiped them out, And so, I think it's, I had a discussion the other day with somebody on a radio program, and they were talking about how to define misinformation. And I said, that's a conversation that shouldn't even happen. That's a slippery slope. There's no such thing as misinformation. There might be wrong information. And there's certainly people who try and do propaganda. But that is just a way to wipe out conversation in a way that you don't have to feel guilty, misinformation. Because you can categorize anything as misinformation. What happened with the Russia hoax that we saw for 3 years? That was, CNN. That was, that was misinformation, right? So, so 230 should be modified. I don't think it should be done away with. Think of it if it was done away with, because then suddenly all new platforms like mine would be sued over and over again for everything you and others say. It'd be nonstop. We'd be spending money on lawyers instead of development. Okay? So you don't really want to see 230 go away, but you want to see that if people can make a case in court that, in fact, it is conservatives being taken down and not liberals for the same thing, and they are deciding what topics can be talked about or not, and you can show that in court, then they should be liable for their actions. The other thing I would say, too, by the way, that 230 protects me as an owner of a platform from what you say. It should never protect me from my actions and my wrong actions, right? 230 should not be extended to that, and yet it has. They're exempt for their misgivings. When they all took President Trump off their platforms, I think actually they should be, that's their action. It's not about what, they're not protected against, it's not about protecting them against something Trump said. It's their action. And 230 shouldn't have ever been interpreted to be protect them. I mean, why should they have indemnity for their actions? They should be held responsible. So absolutely. Just the other day, we saw the Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, resign and a gentleman replace him. On his first day, very first day, he changed their policy to prohibit private media, that's an important word, private media of people unless you get their consent. That's a major step towards more censorship. First of all, it's private media, not public media, not big media. So it means private journalists like you cannot, or, James O'Keefe, more importantly, right? James O'Keefe goes undercover and he reveals corruption. And he can no longer show those videos on Twitter anymore because he's private media. And it's unless he gets those people's consent, he cannot show it. it's a chilling of those of us in private, journalists, private journalists that find corruption. It might be that at a school board meeting, they're videoing the school superintendent and doing something that's inappropriate. Well, you can't show that anymore. I mean, it's such a chilling, blatant step towards censorship. But we shouldn't be surprised. Anybody, thought Twitter was going to get better after he took office. He's got posts that are just amazing from his history about how they don't have to, focus on First Amendment or free speech. It's not their priority. And other things, even worse, he said, very racist comments.
So, that these policies that Twitter has put in place about private media, just because they've put them in place doesn't make it, lawful. It's absolutely unlawful and unconstitutional. So how do they have the power to uphold such cases in the Supreme Court when they want to take, where they want to prosecute someone for that?
So, okay, so you have to look at what the First Amendment says. And the First Amendment really speaks to government. It doesn't speak to business. Businesses can make decisions about the policies of their company. They do have that right, but they have to treat everybody fairly. And the problem we've had up to now, and we talked about with 230, is that it appears that conservatives are treated one way and people on the left are treated differently. That's a problem. But if they want to make a policy, as long as they treat everybody fair, as a private business, they can do that. So, if they implement this new policy and they're consistent to everybody, then legally they can do it. Now, the government can't do that, but a private business can do that. Now, that's a legal issue. Now, is it right? It's not right. I mean, these platforms are where people speak. These are the public town halls of today. If you're not on there, your voice doesn't matter. What's being discussed in those forums, in Facebook and Twitter and the other platforms, have far-reaching consequences. That's deciding what happens in Washington. That's deciding what happens in your community. And if you're silenced or you can't bring out corruption, then it's legal, but it's not right.
I got it. So they're abusing the laws, that they are abusing their own powers.
Yeah. Well, let's say this. They're legally allowed to do it, but just because it's legal doesn't make it right. And what will be the consequences? Well, the consequences, there's a CloutHub, there's a Getter, there's a Truth Social coming, and that is the answer, right? Yeah, they caught us off guard, but now we're responding and we're giving people platforms where they can speak their mind freely. I think that one of the reasons Jack Dorsey stepped down from Twitter is because he sees the writing on the wall. I think we're hurting him. First of all, his platform is the easiest to copy. It's a very basic, just discussion timeline. And so you see the Parlors, the Getters, and now Truth Social coming out. Well, I think when Truth Social comes out, that'll hurt the others because they're all the same, basic purpose, But I think that'll hurt Twitter the most. And I think Jack Dorsey stepped down because he sees they're going the way of MySpace. It's only a matter of time. They'll be gone.
Yeah. The other consequence is that people are waking up. They're actually seeing the censorship and they're wanting to move to different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There was hesitancy at first to move. They're comfortable, but now they see they have to. They have to be on alternatives. They could still be on Facebook. They could still be on Twitter, but they have to be on alternatives. And it's very important to be on alternatives because, there are concerns that there'll be a real serious takedown at some point in the future. And so people need to have themselves established and get established on a new platform early, because if there is that attempt to shut down those platforms at a certain point because of activities that occur, you can't then go out and reconnect with people. You want to be reconnected with people now, early on these other platforms. And I would encourage them to use all the platforms. And then find which one they like. Some people like a Getter, it's simple, and some people prefer a CloutHub where they have more, abilities. So everybody's got different tastes, and but at least they have options now.
Absolutely. Now, back in 2020, October, November, around that time, I came across an executive order that Donald Trump had signed. And when I read it through, it spoke about, you know, crimes against humanity, treason, censorship, and companies being frozen of those who are involved. And that this executive order went active on the 1st of February 2021. And since then, I think many months ago, Trump mentioned that he will be suing big tech. And we've seen Jack Dorsey step down. We've seen Facebook rebrand. We've seen Jeff Bezos step down. And we've seen many, many other resignations. Do you think that's got a lot to do with their assets being frozen and those being taken into custody, but giving the public the resignation status to protect them, to get on, to keep the masses at peace? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know if that is related. I know we have seen a lot of people stepping down. I don't know if it's that or just because of COVID, that and the impact that's had on society. Some people feel they don't want to deal with it. I mean, if you're a business and your business is closed down, maybe people choose not to have to deal with that issue as a CEO. But for the most part, I think a lot of that stuff was PR stunts. Facebook changing its name doesn't erase the 16 years of invading people's privacy, of censoring people, of hurting. The Atlantic came out with an article just last week talking about how Facebook has hurt mental health wise millions of girls, or Instagram, I should say, Instagram. And so it doesn't erase any of that. And Jack stepping down doesn't change what's happening at Twitter. It's actually I believe, going to get worse, censorship. It's just all PR stunts, right? We've seen them go to Capitol Hill year after year and they testify and nothing changes, So I don't know exactly why they're stepping down.
Right.
We can.
So what do you think is really happening right now? Where do you think Trump is in respect to suing big tech, like he said many, many months ago?
So he is suing big tech, and he's got a lawsuit, and it's progressing. Those things take time. We actually, CloutHub has joined that lawsuit as we submitted an amicus brief in support of the lawsuit. We've had our own issues with big tech. Like I said, IBM took us down took all our videos down without any notice. And despite a contract to the contrary, that they weren't allowed to do that, they did that. We've had issues with Facebook as well, blocking our people's ability to share into Facebook posts while they let other platforms like Twitter do it. So it's a business interference. I think the lawsuit's an important lawsuit. I think he's an important player. There's no doubt about it in social media these days with his creation of his own platform and with him being such a important voice. Of course, it's absolutely stunning to me that they took him as a president off of those platforms. And coincidentally, until just after November 2022, that's how much they fear what he has to say, maybe. I would say the same thing if it was Barack Obama taken off of the social media platforms. It's not right. He was president of the United States. He has a following, and half the country wants to hear what he has to say. And for them to deny that, it's just so wrong. You don't even know where to begin.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. It's completely unconstitutional, unheard of, unprecedented. So how far or where do you predict that the lawsuit for the big tech, where do you think it will end up, and where is it at now, if you can say anything?
Well, I actually don't know exactly where it's at in the legal system. uh, he was taking a slightly different angle at them. Um, and I, you know, so many people argue that it's just censorship, and I think he's taken a bit of a different angle, that they're denying him as a public figure his ability to reach his audience. They're interfering with him as a public figure, as an elected official. You know, um, so some people think he has a good chance of it. Some people think he has no better chance than anybody else.
Well, he's won everything else. So, I know Trump likes to play it down and surprise everybody at the end. That's the type of personality that I warm to with him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a very good chess player.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff Brain, it's been an absolute honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for sharing your information and, with me and the viewers. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
A couple of things. First, I know a lot of people are very concerned about the direction of the country and what's happening in our country. I would encourage people to be hopeful. I think there's many people who do not want to see this country fall and who are working. We have people on CloutHub in groups working very hard, some at a national level, some at a state level, some at a local level, working very hard to take back their communities, take back their country. I know, people in Europe, where you're from, are watch the United States, because as the United States goes, so goes the world. And so, people should be hopeful, and I would encourage them to try CloutHub. Come over. It takes 2 minutes to join up. We protect free speech. We protect privacy. We don't get into your phone. We don't look at what you're doing. We don't track you to the mall. We don't do anything that. And we did design our platform to be healthy, by the way. We used a consultant in neuroscience to help us design our platform. So we're not doing what Facebook's doing, where you're addicting people to come back over and over again. So we are different. We like to see us as reinventing social media, and social media that serves your life. And I think as we continue to grow, people will find it a place where they can come and connect with their friends and their family and their neighbors, but also address issues when they need to that matter to them. So thank you for having me. And we're very proud to have you on CloutHub and your show. And it's been great to follow your success. And we look forward to much more success for you.
Jeff Brain, thank you very much. It's been an absolute honor, and we'll speak again very soon. God bless you.
God bless you as well.